Well, what's up everyone, it's New. Welcome. Today seems like a uniquely well-timed day to come out with a video detailing some of my thoughts on the recent League 3.24 Necropolis League, the current state of the game, as it were. This league came off to a pretty rocky start, which off the back of very high anticipation. I don't know if you guys remember, a day or two before the league launch, the spirits were really high in the community. People couldn't wait to give out the new the meta shakeup, the farming strategies, no sextant, brand new scarabs all across, new transfigured gems. The world is our oyster. You remember how excited people were? Anyway, insert a brand new Necropolis League, two-pronged system, convoluted crafting system, kind of all or nothing strategy behind that, and a mandatory league mechanic that forces all of your maps to be a bit harder, as well as campaign zones. Very odd they choose that. I don't like it when they rip the player agency out from under them. I thought that was one of the things that makes this game great, is our choice to engage with a particular league mechanic, old or new, or not. It makes the maps a little bit more lucrative in some cases, but you have to contend with it even further to do that with the all-flame system. At any rate, apparently this league has some of the worst player retention in history, so that's not good. And then the new strategies that emerged seem to be as degenerate as imaginable, by opening hundreds of maps an hour without running any, just to chase the seer and make a purchase in a map, or chase the divine orb spawn chance for minion. And GG decided they needed to fix the game with their changes the weekend, and all seemed well for a while. The community's perceptions that the league was saved. But apparently not. The league needed saved a second time, and I was already a little bit disappointed with how things were handled up to this point. But now I gotta say, I'm definitely not too happy. So the TLDR of this video is, it's not my usual positive, trying to look at the bright side of everything. I got some pretty harsh criticism of how GGG has handled this. I don't blame any of the players, but that is the TLDR, so you can take it and leave it now, or you can stick around and listen to the rest of my thoughts on this matter, more detailed thoughts, especially as it pertains to the last couple of days. Many of you probably think you know what I'm about to say, and you might be right, but I suspect some of you might not know exactly my take on this. I've talked about it in stream a little bit. But at any rate, the way I see it, there are three camps of people. Camp number one was the upper echelon elite players who basically discovered the strategy and were participating in it in full force. And the strategy goes something like tier 17 juice map, specifically rolled for tormented spirits to spawn when a unique enemy or rare enemy gets low, combined with a scarab, very special beyond scarab, that spawns 8 to 12 portals when a unique monster dies, and this created a sort of self-perpetuating spawning, dying, respawning, redying, respawning situation that actually would grind the server to a halt, spawn tens of thousands of monsters, and drop untold amounts of loot to the point where you could basically justify any kind of investment into the map. You were going to make your money back in spades. And you know what? Fine. I don't have a problem with that. I like it. I like it whenever GG does really experimental things. You could say, they might have missed the mark on this or that. We could talk about the Divination Scarab of Curation, and yeah, maybe that was a little bit over the top. But I think you could all agree it's great when they experiment with things and give us some really aspirational things to, discover. And we can try a bunch of different things out and discover brand new aspirational content. They're, of course, guiding us in a certain direction. Affliction League, last league, was a good example of a fairly well-executed league in this respect. It was very difficult to play it at the highest level, and it was very rewarding as well. Again, we could say they missed the mark a little bit. Maybe it was a little bit over the top. But at least, I think most people's reception of it was pretty good. The best retention in PoE history. Just so the swing is harsh on this one. But at any rate, I got no problem with the first camp of people who were doing, their best at making as much currency as they possibly could, playing the game in a way that was most enjoyable to them. And if that completely sends the economy through the ringer, so be it. Not the end of the world. The economy will correct itself over time anyway, obviously. Blessed are those who find it first. That's just the way these sorts of things work. Got no problem with it. The next camp of players are the people who are just straight up resentful of the fact that there was a small contingent of the player base who were able to create insane amounts of wealth for themselves and disrupt the economy, and they were resentful. They would never be able to do that, and they had no desire to do it. They just wanted to drag other people down and say, hey, I don't feel motivated to play the game because you're playing the game this way, and I feel like if I play the game that way, it's not good enough for me. I'm not going to entertain that outlook very much. I've never had that outlook, and yeah, no. Just no. Really low resolution type stuff. Anyway, I happen to fall in the third category of people who saw what the very top end players were starting to do, and I said, wow, that's really interesting. That looks fun. I want to do that. That's crazy. Oh, so much loot they're getting. Like stuff. I can play that. I could do that. Well, I'm going to have to work for it. I'm going to have to change my initial plans about what I was going to do the next few days. But hey, I think in 2 or 3 days, I could probably be ready and get a character good and up to the task, and I'll test things, and I'll work at it, and I'll get going on it. And then suddenly, the ripcord pulled out from under you, and oh yeah, all that planning you'd had, that testing, getting ready to do it. Nah, actually, nope, useless, gone. The whole strategy's dead now. So GGG apparently felt that it was a problem, what was taking place past few days. But not such a big problem that they had to put a stamp out on it immediately. And this is what I can't understand. Why a strategy that clearly did not exploit anything, working as intended, would be so bad that they had to fix the game, changes, a recent patch, but not so bad that they could just let it ride out. We'll see what happens. Who cares what happens to the economy? Who cares what happens to players' expectations? Which is what I actually care about. I don't care about the economy. The economy corrects itself. The economy will always fix itself in these situations. Some people lose, some people win. That's the way it is. When the Mage Blood received a divination card, I felt like I lost because I enjoyed farming the Mage Blood through raw drops and Magic Find. But suddenly, now I got to farm the divination card for it. I lose, whoop-de-doo. I can plan for it. I got a whole league to plan for it. The changes took place in between leagues, as it should be. Not in the middle of the league, and not with multiple days going on that is setting players' expectations for what the future looks like, and suddenly just they just play God and then just completely remove a strategy that people perceive to be, well, this is the way the league is. It's the way Affliction League was. You get 10,000 juice, get just 20 divines of a map. There's no reason to suddenly believe that was going to disappear, and it didn't. Good for GGG for making their bed and sleeping in it. Interesting point. In interviews after the fact, I think it was Jonathan and/or Mark said that they actually didn't really like how Affliction League went down. They thought it was over the top, but they realized they made their bed, so they slept in it. It was hard on the servers. The economy was wacky, and people were happy. That's the way it should be. Now, no. Suddenly they just completely ripped it out from under us. And that's not cool. Whether you're in the first, second, or third camp, that's not cool. It's not cool for people in the first camp because they did the hard work and discovered a new strategy and were doing very well on it, and they made lots of currency. And now suddenly their favored strategy is just gone out of nowhere. That's not cool. It's not cool for the people who were resenting them for having those things because they were victims of the economy as well. The economy that was in the middle of quick correction, and some of them were actually happy because they were able to headhunters and magebloods for dirt cheap, and now suddenly they aren't. I know there's some of those people who were saving up what little currency they had to buy a crashing marketed headhunter, and then they wake up the next morning and, oh, it's tripled in price out of nowhere. And that's thanks to GGG. Then there's the third camp of people who had their expectations completely thwarted, planning to play a certain way, and had their eyes dead set on it, and suddenly just gone. So my biggest issue is the timing of it and the decision to neither fix the problem immediately if it is a problem, nor let it ride out if it's not a problem. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, this isn't too big of a problem, we can just let it go, and then change your mind later. That's not cool. Either it's an exploit, it should get fixed immediately, or it is a serious threat to the servers, it should get fixed immediately, or it was a miscalculation on our part and an imbalanced league, and it is what it is, go ride it out. That's what they did with Affliction League, and that's what they should have done with this league if they were going to leave it a few days. Many of you have said, well, it's too late, and I agree with you. But it's not because of the economy. It's not too late because of what it did to the economy. Who cares about the economy? The economy fixes itself every single time anyway. That's what economies do. That's the beauty of trade. Didn't matter. I know a lot of people were upset that, people who like to boss rush farm Nemesis bosses or whatever. Again, there are losers and there are winners in certain farms. That's the way it always is. The problem is the subverting of expectations. People we've really begun to figure out the league, and we are now able to, employ a lot of effort to a certain end, and that end is just gone before it even begins. So, to that we will say farewell to the insane tens of thousands of monsters farm and the grinding of the server to a halt. And I just hope that in the future, GG will have done their due diligence with some better internal testing and some better management and decision making in these emergency cases, I guess, so that it doesn't leave us players behind. Again, with a frailed out, frizzled out economy, don't care. Don't care about that. It leaves us players behind with subverted expectations and not knowing, what our next move should be, because should I even try to do a farm or find a really cool thing if they're just going to rip it out in the next few days? You make the patch, should leave it. There should be almost nothing that changes in a league after it's launched in the way of effectively nerfing actual farms and strategies. It should almost never happen. It should almost never happen because it should be tested and figured out ahead of time anyway. But second, it should almost never happen because if it does happen, it should happen so quickly that nobody even notices. They have the tools at their disposal. They can see the servers redlining. They know exactly when it happens as it happens. They know sooner than anybody. Except literally the person who invents a strategy. So, that's my thoughts. I'm done ranting. I hope GG does better in the future. I will continue doing my part, coming out with new videos. We're already exploring new things. The one nice thing that comes out of this is it's kind of a clean slate for everybody. We can also start exploring new strategies, figure out, pick up the pieces that was left behind. And, if you're one of those who, unfortunate souls who didn't make a bloody fortune with the strategy, well, sorry about it. That's how it goes. It's just like almost the entire rest of us. So, we will do what we can for the rest of the league. Try to end it on a high note. That's my thoughts. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments. I know the comments are going to explode on this video. I will attempt to address some of them as I can. Again, may agree or disagree. Coming to you with a clean face, clean heart. So hopefully you enjoyed my take on the league as it stands. All right. Bye for now. See you in the next video.